Hello, good people, and welcome to another episode. I'm so happy to have you here. And yes, it has been long, but such is the nature of life. And what do we do in such situations? We move with the movers. And so we move. And in moving, I welcome you all to another episode, another powerful discussion that is going to bring us just that much closer to closing the knowledge gap that exists on what it is that we know about our history as a continent and as a people. And so to not make this video too long, just to give a bit of context, this video is going to be discussing, as you will see from the title, colorism, but from a South African lens. There's a robust conversation that is currently happening within the TikTok space, whereby a creator by the name of Zianda basically talked about how Black light-skinned women oftentimes do not want to see or find themselves in the forefront of advocacy or feminism because of how it will affect the fragility of their femininity. And so, as is the nature of this kind of conversation, we are finding that there is an array of opinions that are coming up. And the simple contribution that I want to make to this conversation is to really walk us through a history of how it is that we got here and how we also in some ways continue to maintain these very toxic, dysfunctional conditionings that do nothing but further divide us. Because as African women, there's a pattern, there's a history of us trying to really create this unified women's movement, but we're not really getting it. We haven't gotten there yet. And I think it is important that for us to get to the other side of the kind of society that we want to have, that is inclusive, that is equitable, and is equal and fair to all, we need to also be able to have the mirror face us and have these difficult conversations. So with that, enjoy the conversation. Colorism is not just about personal preference. It goes beyond what simply looks good. This is a system of power that has been engineered by colonialism, enforced by apartheid, and has been maintained by us. Every day we tell these groupings of women, whether it's dark-skinned women or light-skinned women, a certain kind of narrative. To dark-skinned women, we tell them that they are too dark, their features too African, and their femininity leading more to the masculine side. Whereas with Black light-skinned women, we tell them that they are closer to beauty. They are closer to the standard of desirability and marriage, thus ultimately making them more closer to being human. In South Africa, we have heard a lot of stories that further confirm these kind of realities. We've heard about mothers who apply bleaching creams to their babies, men who proudly state how they would never date a dark-skinned woman. And so to further understand this, we need to understand or know the historical foundations. And our story begins in 1652 when a gentleman by the name of Jan van Riebeeck arrives at the Cape. He did not only bring with him his ships and supplies, he also brought racial ideologies that decided whose body was to be valued and whose femininity was to be recognized. But more than that, it told us whose pain mattered. Everyone from Dutch settlers, VOC employees, and slave owners systematically raped enslaved women from Angola, Madagascar, Mozambique, Indonesia, India, and the list goes on. A feminist scholar by the name of Dr. Margaret Hunter documents how colorism in colonized societies traces back to the sexual violence that happened against African women by white men. This was a form of social control. And as many of us know, the children that were born from these rapes, that were mixed race children, were offered slightly better treatment than their dark-skinned mother. It was through these births that a hierarchy of sorts was born, and that hierarchy detailed the fact that proximity to whiteness equaled proximity to humanity. Not only this, but it created a hierarchy that was gendered. And we see this in how light-skinned women were sometimes taken as concubines or domestic servants that were made to work in the master's house and away from the field labor. Whereas on the other side, dark-skinned women remained in the most brutal forms of work. And from this, the notions and the understandings that a light skin or lighter complexion began to form. And these ideas told us that light skin signaled beauty, desirability, as well as value, whereas the dark skin signaled ugliness, undesirability, and disposability. This pattern has continued and leads us to where we are today. Under apartheid, this codified gender within colorism was only further perpetuated, and this time through policy and law. This was instituted under apartheid's Population Registration Act of 1950, whereby every person was classified by race. And this enforcement was deeply gendered because women's bodies became the sites of classification. Many of us are aware about the pencil test, the inspection of skin tone, measuring of one's nose with their hair textures. And as a result, there have been unfortunate stories telling of how families were torn apart simply because of how siblings were placed in different racial groupings. The hierarchy that was enforced was that white women were the standard of beauty, fragility, and were deserving of protection. Colored, or rather mixed-race women, who weren't necessarily white enough, but also not exactly black, were closer to the beauty ideal than the black woman. And black women, who oftentimes were seen simply as the darker-skinned women, were at the bottom of the barrel. They were portrayed as the masculine, strong, unable to feel pain. And this was really where we start seeing the establishment of the strong black woman trope. And as it was invented, it completely denied dark-skinned women any form of protection. They were instead hypersexualized, yet they were defeminized. More than that, they were seen as those who were least marriageable, and most importantly, the least valuable. This is something that is not ancient history, but rather it is a blueprint that in our 31 years of democracy as South Africans, we have inherited. And so this brings us to the point of how it is that gendered colorism continues to operate today. Statistics tell us that 35% of South African women use skin lightening products, and globally we know about the facts, or rather the stats that states that 40% of African women bleach their skin. This is a $31 billion industry as of 2024. And many of us may ask ourselves, why would women do this? Why would they put these very harmful products on their faces? And the answer is simple. It's because women have come to understand and learn that lighter skin tones mean better jobs, means easier access to marriage, means safety, but more than that, it means acceptance. And a scholar by the name of Mpho Munseki writes that skin bleaching is a profound attack on generic blackness. And so with this, we understand how the femininity hierarchy remains. Light-skinned women, as a result, are seen as more feminine, they are seen as delicate and perceived to be more softer. We cast them in our TV shows and movies as the romantic leads, and they are granted fragility and with it, protection. And I just want to state here that the protection is not only just from the male gaze, the protection is from the entirety of society. And then when it comes to dark-skinned women, we see them as the angry black woman, the one who is expected to endure pain without complaint. And then when they do speak out, they are dismissed, they are violated, and they are definitely not believed. With this, that we are able to understand why this is a gendered violence of colorism. And so now we have to ask ourselves, how do we uphold it? How do we keep this system and the engine constantly running? Because we can't simply blame white supremacy when we ourselves enforce the system on each other. For the dark-skinned woman, we uphold this by colorism, because in us doing this, we are responding to a system that has punished us for our darkness. And in so doing, we tell the next generation that dark skin is ugly and that in order to be valued, you must change yourself. And so we see that in so doing, we are passing down this intergenerational trauma. When it comes to us light-skinned women, we uphold this by remaining silent, by enjoying the benefits and the privilege that our pretty privilege affords us. Whether it is a higher income, more education, better marriage prospects, beauty standard, social acceptance, and the list goes on. And so I then present to us the things that must change. One, we definitely need to decolonize beauty standards. We need to embrace, as a people, our skin tones, our African features, those broad nose, those fuller lips. We need to put them at the center of what we understand beauty to be and no longer hold them at the margins. When it comes to us as light-skinned women, we need to be able to also be held accountable. We need to be able to name our privilege, use it for good, and stop centering our own discomfort. For us dark-skinned women, definitely healing is called for. There needs to be a lot of work in unlearning the self-hatred that was conditioned into us. We need to do a better job in dismantling the industries that profit from colorism. There has to be an effort that is done in banning harmful products, regulating various advertising, and a serious taxing of these companies. When it comes to the family structure, we need to be able to affirm dark-skinned children. We need to not normalize certain comments that are harmful, that we also understand are very degrading. And so as we come to the end of this video, I want us all to leave with this understanding that colorism is not a black people problem. It's a white supremacy problem that we have internalized. It's a patriarchy problem that values women only for their proximity to whiteness. It's a capitalism problem that profits from our self-hate. And also, it is our problem because we are the ones who enforce it each and every single day. Until light-skinned women are able to risk their fragility to fight for all skin-toned women, and until dark-skinned women refuse to destroy themselves for the sake or at the altar of acceptance, colorism will continue to do what it was designed to do, and that is divide us, destroy us, and ensure that ideals of white supremacy continue to survive for years beyond. And the only way out of this is through solidarity, a real solidarity that centers the most marginalized, holds everyone accountable, and refuses to accept scraps of conditional humanity in exchange for a collective freedom. And so I think the question that we all need to ask ourselves is whether or not we are brave enough to not only have these difficult conversations, but also challenge our own thinkings and understandings, and most importantly, the way in which we engage with one another and continue to present ourselves in this ever diverse world that we exist in.